yes, you do have to understand the concepts, but it's if you understand how the teacher in the class itself is structured, you can use that and figure out its patterns in order to do well.
The things that you have struggled the most since 6th grade has been a math class of some sort, either math or science. You recovered from those. That means you had to put in extra hours.
Yeah.
And that extra input into that one class has actually allowed you to have math be now your strength in standardized tests. So look at what failure has done to you. Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started.
Welcome to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Bosch, and I'm here with my co-host,
Mom Bosch.
Mama Bosch.
Michelle Bosch.
Yes.
And so what are we talking about today?
We're gonna talk about overcoming some challenges.
Okay. And what
Specifically academic
challenges? Okay, which is kind of like your jam. You it's not the first time you had one like this.
It's always okay, so we're already gonna just jump in.
Let's
Every single year since I'd say 8th grade or 7th grade. 7th grade.
Yeah.
That's when it started getting real. 7th grade, I've always had one class that has always been my issue. Like a struggle class. And so 7th grade, it was math class because my teacher sucked. Or 6th grade. 6th grade because my math class sucked. 7th grade, it was science. 8th grade, geometry, math. I've always been a little bit more ahead in math, and that puts me, but I've always like that. So I love a good challenge, but that was like almost paralyzing how challenging it was. And then freshman year was easy. Yeah, freshman year was a little easy. It was science, biology. And then last year it was chemistry. And kind of math, but mostly chemistry. The one that we saw like the grade drop at the beginning of the semester. And then this year it's physics.
Okay, so basically
There's always been that one class.
it's not your first rodeo. You have experience every year of basically just having incredible
Flunking,
difficulty and failure, and then bouncing back. And give us your strategies for bouncing back from a failure.
So
I call failure accelerated learning, by the way.
Yeah.
So tell me about your.
I'd rather honestly fail at the beginning of the semester so I have more time and more assignments to get my grade up, and rather not fail at the end because then it's close to the final, and then if you don't understand things there, it's like you're screwed. But so this year for physics, physics, I think it's all over the world. It's known to be a really hard class.
Yeah, it's like it requires your brain to be wired
differently. It requires your brain to be wired a certain way. And for my brain specifically, my reading comprehension is not that great. So I don't understand what words are telling me on a paper. Like, I can't figure it out.
You've always struggled a little
I've
bit with
always 100% reading comprehension, like those standardized testing. It's been so bad. I just took a practice ACT on Saturday. It's so terrible.
Okay.
And guess which section I was good at? The math section. But with the ACT, there's 4 sections, and only one is math. The other, like, 3 are basically reading comprehension.
So what?
So it was so bad.
But what I'm hearing you say is
I can do the math.
that the things that you have struggled the most since
Are the
6th grade.
words.
Wait, no, since 6th grade has been a math class of some sort, either math or science.
No.
But
the thing is, for
wait. And you recovered from those. That means you had to put in extra hours.
Yeah.
And that extra input into that one class has actually allowed you to have math be now your strength in standardized tests.
Well,
so look at what failure has done to you.
You okay if you put it that way?
Look at what failure has done.
Oh, but math has always, like, I've always somewhat understood it. And the reason why I was failing in math classes before was at the beginning, at least, was the fact that it was new material. I could understand it, but actually producing it on a paper in a timed environment, it was not, it was like I couldn't finish the test.
Yeah.
So there were different tactics that you could go with, and we figured it out what works best for me. You just have to work a bunch of similar problems until you know the pattern, and you don't just like recognize it, you know how to reproduce.
Basically, it's not just recognition of the topic, but basically it becomes automatic in actual execution.
Exactly.
And that only comes with practice.
Repetition.
So
that was my,
like what we tell our students with deals. You got to have the repetition of multiple deals over and over until you become.
And that was my issue specifically for math classes. Because I did understand the material, except for geometry. Geometry is a whole different beast. But I did understand that. I understood most of the material. I would go in to ask for help. I learned how to go in to ask for help. And then, but with the sciences, it was always like the readings, this conceptual parts that I couldn't exactly grasp. So last year for chemistry, I was like, what do molecules have? Like, I don't know. People are just saying, like, this is just the way it is. I didn't see an actual reason for me to, like.
You couldn't figure out the pattern, basically.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. But then I also realized that yes, you do have to understand the concepts, but if you understand how the teacher in the class itself is structured, you can use that and figure out its patterns in order to do well.
Give me an example.
So every so often in each unit for chemistry, there is a lab, and each lab had a explanation portion. Like we did like client letters, so they would give us a fake letter
like
from
a case study,
like a case study, and you had to reply back with what your findings were and things like that. I realized was doing so horribly on those. I realized that after a while, I understood what the teacher was looking for, like the structure of it, and like how well thought out you had to be, things like that. And I understood that pattern. I finally figured it out. It finally clicked on how, like, you could have all the information and know how to interpret it, but if you don't, like, present
how
it,
she wants it to be presented,
present it,
gonna grade it favorably.
You're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
So even if you understand it, there's still ways that you can do poorly. So I understood the pattern and understood how to actually make it so that she would.
That's actually quite refreshing to hear, Sophia, because it wasn't just chemistry concepts for the sake of chemistry and problems, but now you also had to communicate this in such a way.
At first, it was the chemistry concepts. And then once I understood those, I realized the other reason why I'm not doing well is because I wasn't presenting them in the way that she wanted. So it was like a double.
Yeah.
But I was able to overcome the conceptual part by like asking a whole lot of questions, going to her after class, getting a tutor. I don't care what people say. Getting a tutor gives you an edge. Don't care. It's not because you're stupid. It's because you want some extra help. You want to understand, want to do well.
Absolutely. 100%.
I got a tutor to help me with the conceptual part and eventually I was scoring in each class. There was a daily quiz, which caught me off guard. But each daily
to keep you like on your toes.
No. Oh my God. Physics is the same way this year too. So and he never tells you when there's a quiz.
Okay. I lost that man already.
No. I do not love that man. I love my chemistry teacher though. My prior chemistry teacher, but I don't think
Miss Flores was so tough at the beginning. Like,
Hey, also on top of that, yeah, she in our minds, I can now, looking back on it, I can now recognize that she put this bar so high, but it wasn't high in like where you couldn't impossibly high. We thought it was impossibly high at the beginning. We're like, oh shoot, like I don't think I'm gonna make it. But she put it so high, like not impossibly high, but extremely high, and she expected us to all rise up.
That's amazing.
And most of us did.
Yes.
And if you didn't,
so now chemistry this year. Tell me about chemistry this year.
Or physics.
Physics this year, yeah.
Physics is something similar. You know how I said my reading comprehension was bad? I can do the math. Like, that's not an issue for me. The math that we're using is like algebra 2, like pre-calc math. Like, you only need to take algebra 2 or pre-calc, or be in pre-calc at least for physics. So, the math is not the issue. It's just figuring out what the words are saying and then transferring that into math.
That conceptual aspect.
Yeah, the conceptual.
Give me an example. What kind of things are you guys learning right now?
So, well, okay, so the last
it's kind of like objects in motion right now, right?
So what we've been learning now is it's all building upon each other. Yeah. So if you screw something and you don't understand something from the first class, you're gonna be screwed
for the rest
of the year,
because it builds upon that foundational knowledge. Yeah.
So right now we're doing kinematics. So if it's saying like on an incline of 20 degrees, there is a 20 kilogram box sitting there with a force being put upon it of 40 newtons, something like that. And you have to figure out, and it starts at rest, right? And you have to figure out, and it gives you the distance, what's the ending velocity that it has.
And then you have to also figure out acceleration.
You have to figure out acceleration. It gives you mu kinetic, which is like the coefficient of kinetic force. Or it's usually meant to be for friction too. So you have one force of the box being pulled down the hill based on the angle that it's at. You have a force of gravity. You have a normal force, which is going up, which is balancing gravity. You have a force that is the friction. You have a force of it being pushed, including the force that it has down the hill, pushed. And so you need to find the acceleration that will therefore tell you and you were given the distance, it will tell you what's the final velocity. At the end of the hill.
So basically,
it's a whole complex, but understanding what those words
mean. So it's new concepts of what those words mean.
And the issue that I've been running into is like, I'll understand. I know how to do the math, but I don't understand the actual concept. So I'm not able to draw the picture. And drawing the picture in physics is like the most important thing.
That's
for you
setting
to
up the problem.
Yeah, setting up the problem for you to actually envision it and mark it and see like where it's ending, if it makes sense, things like that. Those words and transferring them to the picture just never
Well, at
clicked.
the
At
beginning.
the beginning, never clicked.
Uh-huh.
Like I could never do that. So what I did was I tried asking my teacher, but my teacher is not the best. So I went to the other physics teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me a bunch.
Good girl, mean, resourceful.
I talked to my math teacher.
Okay.
I talked to a bunch of friends that understood it and were like whizzes at this. Like their brains are wired for it. So I asked them a bunch of questions. I had them help me. They basically tutored me. One in particular, he helped me a lot. But I also got help from an outside tutor. Which
Dr.
really,
Frampton.
yeah, Dr. Frampton. He helped me with the conceptual, and he was teaching for a long time. And the best part about it that is very different from my teacher, I will say, I don't understand this part. Could you explain it to me? And he'll explain it the exact same way as he did before.
The teacher.
My teacher.
Uh-huh.
And if I'm saying I don't understand this, obviously something in your explanation
It's not clicking.
is not clicking. So you need to help me understand it in a different way. Even if I ask that, he'll explain it the exact same way. With my tutor, he finally explained it, and all the people that I asked, he finally explained it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, my favorite thing to hear from a teacher is like, okay, you don't understand this, right? Think of it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they
think of it this way.
think of it this way, or let's take this for example. Let's take a different approach, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite thing to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because it means that I might be one step closer to actually understanding it.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Absolutely. So, Sophia, in all of this, what I've heard,
I'm finally getting it though. Like it's all coming together. I feel like also physics, it builds upon each other.
Yeah.
And so you had to get to the final.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, it helps me. Like if you're only being introduced to certain topics every so often, you don't know how it actually connects to
Mm-hmm.
the like you're like, what's this equation? Why when will I need this?
Yes.
Why will it matter? Then once you have the final like it comes all together moment,
Yeah.
then you can okay, that makes more sense. So then it starts clicking.
I think,
and it's finally it starts
is one of the subjects that I remember
it's
where
hard.
all of the maths basically start being applied.
Yeah.
Have applied math.
Yeah, there's algebra, there's calculus,
Mhm.
there's geometry. Oh, there's so much geometry.
There is some.
The amount of right triangle trigonometry, like trig,
Huh.
that I've had to use.
That's wonderful.
So Katoa.
I'm glad to hear. So what I heard you say in terms of your strategies, if we were to summarize,
Yeah, I was kind of all.
you were all over the place, but I'm going to try to summarize them. Well, first of all, my first observation was, wow, all the things where you initially struggled and had even some failure on quizzes.
Yeah, well,
the
those
ones-
quizzes too, they were so often. And here's the thing with those quizzes. There's so many of them. So if you know what you're doing, there's so many opportunities to get good points. But if you don't know what you're doing, there's so many opportunities to do so terribly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's more opportunities to fail.
Uh-huh.
And
Well, and you had plenty of those. But what I heard you say is that basically those classes in which you struggle at the beginning most are the ones where you had to put extra effort. And actually, because of that extra effort, the following year, or even right now when it comes to standardized testing, where you're in a time constraint, the ones where you struggle the most are the ones where you're excelling the most, which is on the math side of the SAT portion.
yeah, it's doing.
So that was number one.
Wonders.
Number two,
my score.
what I heard you say was, I try to be resourceful. I try to, whenever I don't get it from my teacher, I go and ask him after school. And if he's not able to explain it differently, you go to the different teacher.
Plus, so many people complain also because physics is just hard. And physics 1, it's not like physics 2 where it really weeds out all the people. Like, if you're taking physics 2, you really want to take that class. Like, you understand.
Is that your plan for next year?
No. You understand the commitment. Like, you want to take that class. For physics 1, it's a graduating requirement.
Yeah.
So everyone of any type of level is taking physics.
Mhm.
And so it's not exactly like to the same level. Everyone's not at the same level. And so there's a lot of people struggling, some people doing well. Like, it's a whole mixture of things.
So for people that are struggling, it's go after school or during lunchtime. Ask a teacher. That's the strategy.
And
ask if there's 2 teachers, 2 different classes,
Yeah.
basically 2 different teachers teaching the same subject. Go try with the second teacher. If that doesn't work, ask your friends that could be doing well. If that is not enough, then because you cannot shift the responsibility of understanding onto your friends, look for a tutor, which is what you did.
Yeah.
And you found ideally
A good
somebody,
one.
a good one. The other strategy that I heard you say specifically when you were talking about chemistry was sometimes it's not enough to have the right data points specifically for that class.
It's not enough to write. It's kind of like physics. Like, yeah, you have the right answer, but how the heck did you come up with it without all the explanation?
Without the explanation. And so and then how do you explain it? How do you present those data points? Which, Sophia, for business as an entrepreneur, I can tell you that sometimes I'm being presented by our team, our leadership team, with what we call key performance indicators, metrics, in each of the different departments, whether it be sales, whether it be marketing, whether it be our coaching department. We have certain metrics for each of our teams. And sometimes it's not enough for someone to just basically enter the numbers in the spreadsheet. I'm still looking.
And it's like, what are these numbers? Like,
Exactly. I'm still looking and basically relying on our team to basically present those
Tell me what
numbers
they
and
mean.
what exactly do they mean historically, but more than anything, what do they mean for the future? What do we need to do more of the same exactly because we're doing well? Or what do we need to be doing different? The significance of it. And I think that is something that it seems like your chemistry teacher, Mrs. Flores, last year was teaching.
Yeah, and for
So a big shout out to Mrs. Flores.
Physics, yeah. Oh, yeah. Physics also, in the sense of like, yes, you learn this in math, but you're not just like jumping all over the place on the paper. Like, the actual structure of the paper, like, you have one step under another. You don't like just switch lines, like go crazy. Like, make it easy for the teacher
to read through it and read through your answer, or how you arrive in your thought process as you arrive to the answer. Because you've had the situation where your final answer has been wrong, but because your thought process up until
they give you credit.
They give
you partial credit, and it's great. They only take off like 1, maybe 2 points for getting the wrong answer.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So awesome. So I love your comebacks. I love your strategies on coming back. And
practice. All of those things are just practice.
And the fact that it seems to me like the faster you were able to catch basically and recognize, okay, I'm in trouble, I need help, you bounce back rate.
Yeah. But I gave myself at the beginning, I always give myself a little bit time to see. I always have this thing. And sometimes it works. I see if I can figure it out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that doesn't
the
work.
brain needs a little bit of time for it to percolate, and
sometimes it doesn't come quick enough. So other options come into play.
Options. The other options, do you wait until the last moment before? Well, you've had a few of those moments.
Yes, a few.
And the lesson was like, let's not wait for the last moment the night before a test, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sophia, for sharing your strategies. I hope that another, middle schooler or high school kid listening to this is going to benefit from your strategies, and really figuring out, like you said, what is it that your teacher is looking for, because sometimes it's not just about presenting the data and the numbers, but how it's being presented, the structure that the teacher is looking for, that'll make a difference.
And it differs from each teacher, but once it finally clicks, you're golden.
You're golden. Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you to all of you listening. And if this was a helpful episode in terms of strategies for your teenager on how to, deal with challenges in school, academic challenges, please share this with them and have them tune in every week to the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.